Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at recent sales for vintage mint on card Star Wars action figures, both graded and ungraded, and one scam sale. I want to point these out because I continue to see these and they continue to get bid up, admittedly below fair market value, but you still got to go through the process of getting your money back from eBay. So just avoid them, and I'll show you how to avoid at least one type of scam that I see all the time, and it continues to happen. So just be careful out there. There's a lot of villainy and scum on eBay. You got to be really careful. As always, thanks to my Patreon supporters. Please be sure to leave me a like if you enjoy my content, as it does help out with the YouTube algorithm. All right, let's go ahead and take a closer look at recent sales. Here's a good one. Okay, this is a good seller. This is a seller I've bought from in the past. I don't know him personally or anything like that, but I've always been happy buying from him. And I need to say thank you to one of my Patreon supporters. I don't know who it was, okay, but I sent this out as a buy it now alert to my Patreons using the eBay affiliate program that I have set up that you guys use for what to buy videos. But my Patreon supporters, they also get buy it now alerts that I send out. And one of y'all bought it because I did get credit for it through the eBay affiliate program. And I thought it was a good deal, but I just want to say thank you, whoever it was that ended up buying this through my affiliate link. I really appreciate you guys doing that. This was an AFA 75 12 back A Princess Leia, and this is the Taiwan, made in Taiwan, 75, 75, 80. It was listed for $16.50, which I thought was a pretty great deal for a 12 back A Princess Leia. Figure looked great. The harder to find Taiwan versus the Hong Kong. I thought it was a great buy. Clearly, one of y'all agree with me, so congrats whoever picked it up, and thank you again for using the affiliate links. It really does help out the channel, so thank you. But I thought that was a great deal, and that's why I sent it out to my Patreons. All right, this seller, Wheeljack's Lab, I've never bought from, but always has nice stuff. And they had a bunch of early card backs, mint on card, that were at auction, and some of them sold, some of them didn't. He or she usually lists their items slightly below fair market value, but sometimes they're a little overestimating in terms of the price for the auction start price. But I'd say half of them sold, half of them didn't. This one was a 12 back B Chewbacca. It looks like it maybe has some very light yellowing to the blister. It looks like it might be pulling a little bit off the card on the top left. I don't know. It might be a clear blister. It's hard to say. I would guess it's probably a clear blister. But it did have a hang tab issue, as you can see there. It looks like it's fully torn through the hanger tab, which it is. You can see on the back as well. So by no means mint, but it was a 12 back B, and the starting bid was somewhere below $500. Let's see here. The final bid was $500. It started off at $350. So I mean, very clearly, even a 12 back B Chewbacca in the current conditions worth more than $350. And so I thought that starting bid price was very fair. Ended up at $500, 10 bids on that one, free shipping. Next up was a Jawa. This was an unpunched example with a price sticker top left, and that one sold at $800. So that was the starting bid on that one, $800. Light edge wear at the bottom of the front of the card that you can kind of see there. It looks like a rat had started chewing on it a little bit of a tear there. But it did end up selling at $800. That one was a 12 back B as well. This Luke X-Wing was one I had in my What to Buy video a few weeks back. And it did have what looked like a tear on the right-hand side there. It's not bad, but it does go through on both sides. And so when I showed it on my What to Buy video, I said, hey, just be aware of that. It's got a tear on the card. It's still sold at $565. Which it's a shame it had that tear because the blister on it was beautiful. It looks like it maybe has a little bit of sun fading on the front of the card. Hard to tell there, but it could just be bad photos. But to me, it looks a little bit like there's sun fade on the card there. And that's true for a number of these that sold. Here was the Snaggletooth, same story. Yellowed blister, sun fading on the card, it looked like to me. But it was listed at $350. Very fair starting prices for the condition it was in. This was an interesting one. I was curious to see if it would sell. It did sell on one bid at $500. This was a 21 back B Boba Fett mint on card, yellowed blister, and obviously the top half of the card was ripped off. But I was thinking, I was like, well, you know, it's a $500 starting bid. It is mint on card. It's about as cheap as of a 21 back Boba Fett as you can find. Pretty cool to have, you know, if you can't afford a real 21 back B mint on card Boba Fett that go for a lot of money in better shape, then why not add something like this to your collection? So I'm not terribly surprised that somebody decided to bid, even in the current condition it was in, but it did sell at $500, yellowed blister 21B, where the top half had obviously met Jaws and got the top half eaten. Next up, another sun-faded card back. This was a 20 back D Power Droid. It looks like light yellowing to the blister. Here's the back of the card. Back of the card looks good. So I think a lot of these were displayed probably in someone's room without any kind of UV protection. And that will happen over the years. You know, if these have been sitting in a room with no kind of protection from UV rays, this is what happens, is that the cards do fade over time. That one did sell at $400, and again, it's a shame it's about the sun. It's a shame it had sun fading, because other than one little ding on the blister, it was otherwise in pretty decent shape. Just yellowing to the blister, sun fading to the front of the card back. Next up, this was in a auction, and it was a 20 back F Luke Farm Boy, and it looked like it has a clear blister there. You know, it potentially has some yellowing. Nah, it looks clear to me. Looks pretty clear to me. And, you know, the card had a lot of wave to it. You can kind of see at the bottom of the card back there some card wave, just some light edge wear, things like that. Probably about a 75 grade would be my guess on that one. And the price reflected that. It sold at $15.80. So that's about what a 75 grade for this type of item would go for. So I thought that was a very fair price for what it was. All right. As I promised at the beginning of this video, this was a fake sale, okay? This was a 12 back C Luke Skywalker telescoping saber, AFA 75. If you look really closely at this picture, it's been cropped. Brian's Toys had one of these available for sale, and they clearly cropped out the very bottom where Brian's Toys marks Brian's Toys on all of their auctions, right? Just to protect the, you know, the copyright, so to speak, on the photo. And someone grabbed the photo, they cropped out the Brian's Toys at the bottom, and then they listed it at auction. And this is a seller. I don't know who the seller is. It had 27 feedback, 100% positive, but potentially they, you know, had their account stolen, or this is a scummy account. I don't know. I don't know. You know, some scammers may sell some legitimate items just to build up their feedback to get the rep going, and then they list the big expensive item at auction. So we all know that an AFA 75 mint on card telescoping Luke Farm Boy 12 back C sells for more than $6,700. You can add, you know, $10,000 easily to that price. So I think that most people realize that it was a fake sale, but somebody is going to get screwed here, because they're going to pay it, they're going to think they got an awesome deal, and then they're never going to get the item. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a legitimate sale, but I personally do not think so. I think that this was a Brian's Toys listing. I didn't double check it, so again, I'm going on memory here, but you can tell by the photo that it uses that kind of gray washed background, which all of Brian's Toys listings do use that background. So again, I'm going to say with my gut that this was a fake listing. This was a scam listing, and then somebody's going to have to go through the trouble of getting their money back. Okay. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. Okay. Because $6,700 would otherwise be a steal of a deal for a double telescoping Luke Farm Boy 12 back AFA 75. So be careful out there. Look for this particular background, okay? If you see this particular background, it's probably, and it's a really rare item, it's most likely a scam listing. You know, Brian's Toys always uses that kind of grayish, you know, faded looking background. And a lot of the scammers use Brian's Toys photos. I see it all the time. This is probably at least the 10th, the 20th fake listing I've seen where they've used a Brian's Toys photo. I don't know why they pick on Brian's Toys, especially because they have to go to the trouble of cropping it. But it just happens a lot, and it's just a very common thing on eBay that they use Brian's toys as photos. So look for that particular background, and if it's a really rare item, like a double telescoping Luke Farm Boy mint on card is not going to be listed at auction unless it's CIB or AFA. All right, there's just no way it's going to happen. That being said, we have seen some rare items this past year at auction from non-AFA CIB sellers. But I just think for something like this that's typically available at Hakes or Heritage, you know, you're not going to see some random seller with 27 feedback list a $15,000 to $25,000 mint on card at auction. It just is not going to happen. And usually the other big thing to look for is free shipping. When you see an item like this and it's listed for free shipping, it's almost always a scammer. Always. So just be very, very careful out there. And, you know, there obviously are exceptions, right? Gold Star Tech is a good example of a seller that does have auctions for very, very rare items. Nothing this level, but very rare items at auction with free shipping, okay? You got to trust the feedback. Do I trust buying a $15,000 to $25,000 mint on card from somebody on eBay with 27 feedback? No, I don't. Gold Star Tech has like 20,000 feedback. I've bought from them as well. So just be really careful out there. I know I'm harping on this and I'm spending too much time on this, but just be careful because it still happens and it just drives me nuts. All right, back to Wheeljack's Lab. They had this mint on card or mint in sealed box die cast Y-Wing fighter. It looked like it had a little bit of yellowing to the blister on it, but the box itself was in great shape. That sold at $770. Pretty big number, but I think this one would grade pretty highly, 75 plus to 80, probably in that ballpark, maybe even an 80 plus. I thought that was a beautiful example for what it was. That did sell at $770. Here's the poor man's debut card for Bosk. We talk about that all the time, the 32 back B. The 31A is his true debut card, but there's only a handful of those out there. So the 32B is the poor man's debut card for Bosk. This one had a slightly yellowed blister, a little bit of litho damage in the upper right-hand corner, and it was an unpunched example. $326, very fair deal for what that was. I thought that was a very fair price. Next up, this seller over in the UK, I didn't see any of these items get listed. Otherwise, I would have certainly alerted you to them. There were some beauties. This was the debut card for the Hoth Imperial Stormtrooper, clear blister. A little bit of edge wear, a little bit of shadow from the sticker residue in the upper right. That one sold for $291 US. That was a bargain. That was a really, really good deal. Same seller also had this 47 back, free 4-lime offer, AT-AT driver, unpunched. It did have a yellow blister, unfortunately, but it sold at $347. Very fair price again, and the card back was in immaculate condition. You know, light edge wear, don't get me wrong. It's got some issues, but it's a very good deal at those two prices. So I wish I had seen those and I would have alerted you guys to them, but I just didn't see them until after they closed. Next up was a mint in sealed box mini rig. This was the Empire Strikes Back packaging for the MLC3. It was listed for $195, which I thought was a great deal. This was an 80 to 85 grade condition, maybe 80 plus, somewhere in that ballpark. And I had it on my watch list, and I went to the gym, and I said, when I get back, I'm going to send my Patreons this in a buy it now alert. And between putting it on my watch list, going to the gym, and coming back, it sold. So somebody agreed with me that it was a good deal, and I think it was a good deal for the Empire Strikes Back packaging, mint in sealed box, very gradable condition. $195 was a fair price. One of my Patreon supporters did pick this one up. This was a made in Mexico Darth Vader that was at auction. AFA 75, and again, the price is not showing up here. $386 is what that sold for. Clear blister, obviously. 70, 80, 85 were the subscores on that one. It's probably about right if you ask me. This had that long neck mold for the Lily Letty Darth Vader. Some of the Lily Lettys do have that kind of longer neck. It's like this. That's what he looks like sometimes. I've got one of those loose graded that's very similar to that in terms of how it kind of sits on the head there. So that one did sell at $386. Here was another one that I sent out in a Patreon buy it now alert. I don't know if one of y'all bought this or not. I didn't check closely with my eBay affiliate, but I thought this was a fair deal. It sold at $550. This one was a Return of the Jedi 77 back for the Hoth Stormtrooper. Unpunched, no price sticker, and a clear blister. Very tough to find that. Very, nice condition. It had some rubs on the back and some light edge wear at the very bottom of the card. But I thought that was pretty fair for what it was. I mean, Chris has sold one of these on the Facebook group, Rogue 5 Toys, where I'm an admin, and he listed it for about this price, if memory serves. And I thought this was exactly what it was worth for a later stage 77 back with still a clear blister. Very tough to find that one. And, it did have a light crease going through the card there. It was very faint, but, it didn't show up on the back too much. But I think this thing gets an 80 pretty easily with the current condition on that one. That was very nice. Here was an AFA 85 Power of the Force General Lando. That one sold at $660. Big number there, but it was an AFA 85. 85, 85, 90 were the sub-scores. Punched example, no price sticker, and only light yellowing to the blister. Probably about right if you ask me. Next up was one that I wasn't sure if it would sell or not, but it was an AFA 85, unpunched, no price sticker, Luke Stormtrooper. And it was a beauty. I mean, it was very, very nice. 80, 85, 85. It did sell 2 bids, 2,500 bones, $2,500. And we've seen some on Hakes and elsewhere that have sold for that price, or higher. So not terribly surprised that it did sell. Next up, this seller had a couple of lots that I did send out. I don't know if any of you all bought them or not, but this lot of 4 Power of the Force Last 17 sold for $950. They also had this lot of Power of the Force mint on card Ewoks that sold at $850. And then finally, the same seller had 2 droids mint on cards, Jan Tosh and Jord Dusat. Those sold for $300. So very nice lots, I thought, to kind of instant collections based on those 3 sales. So I hope you enjoyed this look at recent sales for vintage mint on card action figures. Don't forget to leave me a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back soon.